Hi, this is Heath again, and I'm here for another training video. What we're going to be doing today is removing the capping station off of a DTG Viper. The first thing that we're going to be doing is removing the blue cover. To see how this is done, please review one of the other previous videos. So the first thing we've done after we remove the blue cover is we're going to have to move the print head away from the capping station to get to that area. There's the head release button directly on the back of the head carriage, and that way I can pull this out of the way. Underneath there, this is your lower plumbing assembly. Okay, we have the capping station itself, a little spit tray, which basically comes over, the print head comes over and drops ink in it during the printing process. That's going to be the first thing that we're going to remove. There's a single screw that holds it in. It's located right here. All right. Set these screws to the side so you don't lose them. All right, and then you'll basically lift this right up. There is a tube connected to the bottom of it. Okay. So you can actually just take this and pull it over to the side a little bit so it stays out of your way. Okay. Next, we're going to remove the base screws of the capping station itself. They're located in pretty difficult to video type of locations, but I will point to them with my screwdriver. The first one is in this front corner, and it really helps to have a magnetized long shaft Phillips head screwdriver, and it's a number 2 as well. So we'll remove the first screw here. Lifting it straight up. The second screw is over in the opposite corner, straight down in this location. If you look straight down into the machine, it'll be pretty easy to see which one I'm talking about. Another reason to have a magnetic screwdriver if you drop it. Okay, the next one is going to be right up here in the front. Real easy to get to. Once you have those 3 screws out, the one screw that I had connected with this little spit cup, I want to make sure to put it back in, but not with the spit cup on there. So what I'll do is just put this one back in. It keeps that bracket, or it keeps this whole assembly kind of together. It will kind of split apart if you don't. So once I have that back in, you don't even have to tighten it all the way. Okay, so then what I can do is remove the 4th screw, but it will be kind of pointing in this direction. It's up here in this corner, located right there. Once we remove this screw, that will free up the capping station so that way it's not mounted to the machine. But I won't be able to directly pull it out in that fashion. I have to kind of push it towards the front of the machine a little bit, so that way I can remove this, this whole bracket right here. There is a couple screws. The first one is located straight down in its front corner, and you'll also notice another screw that is going in this direction. So we will get those in a second by going through the front of the machine. And there's also one down here in the base of it, right here. Okay, and now I have to go through the front, through the wiring, to get to those 2 screws that are facing in this direction. It'll be pretty easy to see from the front, and then you can look at it from the top to make sure you're removing the correct ones. The second screw that's facing this way, you can see the screwdriver tip. You'll unscrew that one and pull it out. There'll be another one that's towards the middle over here, and I'll show you where that location is as well. having a magnetic screwdriver really helps, and I'll probably repeat that a couple times. So the other screw, if I tip this out of the way, will be right here in the base, if you can see my screwdriver tip. If you need clarification on where these screws are, you can either call into DTG support at Coldesi, or you can send a support email to support@coldesi.com. Once I have those two screws removed, then I can remove this back bracket. So you'll push it towards the middle of the machine and kind of lift straight up on it. It's a little tricky to get out, but once it does pop out, you'll set it to the side. Before removing the actual capping station itself, we have to disconnect the tubing that's underneath it that goes into the wasting bottle. To do so, we'll bend down here. Before removing the capping station, we'll have to bend down to see the tubing going into the wasting bottle. There are two sets of tubes. The first one is towards the front of the machine. What it connects to is the bottom of the capping station. The back tube that's towards the middle of the machine is connected to the spit tray and the wiper blade. So that's where all your wasting goes. So to remove this, we'll actually have to clip off this little zip tie. Pull that out. And then we'll have to remove this little tray here up underneath. To do so, we push it towards you lift up on the back side of it, and then push it back, and it'll come out of its little clips, and then it'll drop down. We'll set this to the side. Okay, so now I can see my tubing coming from the machine. So what I'll do is disconnect the Y adapter, set it to the side. After we've disconnected the Y adapter, we will also have to pull the tube off of the wiper assembly. So I just grab that tube and pull straight down. So that way it's no longer connected to this little tube here. Then that will completely free up this capping station area. We'll come back up here to the top. We will tilt the capping station forward and start raising it out. It does take a little bit of finagling, so take your time. And then it'll lift straight up. There is a wire connected to the back of it. So what I do is like to spin this sideways so that way I can see it. You can either use some needle nose pliers or kind of reach down in here to disconnect it. Once that is off, it is completely out of the machine. And if you did not have that screw back in there, that piece can separate. So that's why I replaced that screw. So now what we're about to do is put the capping station back in. For this particular video, I'm just going to use my existing capping station that I had in there before. It did not have any issues with it, just FYI. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the tubing from the spit cup. It makes it a little easy to kind of work around in there. Set that to the side. I'm going to kind of pull that tubing out to get it out of the way and just have it hanging down below. Okay, so as I'm feeding this back into the machine, and as you had a new one, you would have to take the Y adapter from the old one and put it on these two tubes. It does not matter which side. Alright, so as I feed this back down in here, I want it to be in this direction. The gearing will be facing towards the middle of the machine. Capping station will be over here on this side. So I will feed it in kind of in the same way I took it out. Go straight in, making sure to kind of reach up from the bottom, grab that tubing so it goes down through its hole, and kind of catty corner it in there. Does take a little finagling like before. So once you get it back down in there, kind of line it up with its post. Okay? And you'll also have this little wire that you're going to need to plug in as well. It has a blue connector to it. To get to where that plugs in, it's going to be, and I'll point to it with my screwdriver, this blue connector will plug into the side of the pump right at the tip of my screwdriver. Okay. Using a pair of needle nose pliers will definitely help this process. Once you line it up, it should slide right in. So after you've plugged in this connector here, using these little small needle nose pliers really helped. Then I can start putting my screws back in. So I have to kind of push this capping station kind of towards the back here, so that way I can get that little retaining plate back in. So to put the retaining plate back in, kind of pick the capping station up forward, so that way I can slide it straight down. Okay. Alright, so now I can start replacing those screws. First one will be up here in this top corner. Next one will be in this back corner. You might even need to take a second screwdriver and push this bracket out so the holes line up. Kind of pushing it forward on the back. It's a little tricky. So once we have that screw in, we will feed our screwdriver through and put the two horizontal screws from the front of the machine. This is a fun one to do for, remember when you were a kid and you played Operation? This is basically what you're going to be doing. You're going to feed your screwdriver through, tighten the first screw, and then the second one. So, we'll feed that screwdriver through, line that hole up, tighten that back down. Okay. Now, we're going to line the capping station back up with its mounting brackets. And you'll notice that this little small gear here has a little hole that it slips into right next to this gear. Right there and there. And then once you have those lined up, you can start replacing the screws. Away the two up towards the front. And the two towards the back. First one will be in this little groove right here, all the way down to the base. I'm going to replace the last screw back here in the back corner. So once we have all our screws back in, we're in the home stretch. If this little plastic barrier gets out of the way, just kind of pull it back in, tuck it underneath. And now we're going to reconnect all our tubing. The first one we're going to do is the tube that connects to the little spit cup. So what I'm going to do, if you have any kind of debris in there, you can wash it out, rinse it out, or anything to that order. You'll fit that right around there till it's nice and snug, so you don't want any leaking or anything like that. Okay, and where it feeds, there's a hole right here. So I'll take this tube, feed it right down in there, and then I'm going to remove that screw that was holding it together earlier. And then use the same screw to adhere the spit cup. Being careful not to drop it. We'll line our little spit cup back up. There's a little tab over here on the side that needs to fit into. And it'll line right up in that same hole. Okay. Making sure it's in there properly. Try to make sure that it's nice and straight and it's not tilted towards this direction, because that wiper blade has to slide across that track smoothly. Okay. So now we'll hook up our lower tubing to our waste bottle. Okay. So to do so, the easiest way to do this is you'll have the Y connector to the front one. All right. Okay. And then with the small tube, I'll actually take it off of the Y connector here. So that way I can slide it up. Let's do this. Put this out of the way for a second. And I can slide this tube right over this wiper drain hole. This one is a little difficult to get on, but if you kind of push it from one side and then slide it up, give it a little twist, it'll slide right up on there. Okay. So now I'll take my Y adapter, connect it to both of those tubes. Right there. And there. All right, so now I've got that Y adapter connected. Take my last tube of my waste ink bottle and connect it to there. Looking like that. So you'll have two Y connectors and two sets of tubing. Now we have to put back in that little plastic tray. To do this, it has a slot on it right towards the back. That's where that Y adapter is going to fit right there above it. So what I do is push the excess tubing up into the machine, put my Y adapter right there, and I'll feed it up towards the front. Whoops. Okay, feed it up towards the front. But I am going to have to take out that front corner screw just for now, so it'll fit into that hole. Okay? And then I can replace that screw and finish putting in this bracket. So I'll place this bracket right up in here. Kind of have to catty corner it up in there. Once you get it up in there, there'll be two little posts on this end. I have two little holes that they fit in. And then once I get them up in there, I push it towards the back. So that way it stays up. Verify everything's in the right place. Good to go. So then I can replace that final screw at the back corner of the capping station. Check and see if it moves properly. Nothing's in the way. And that's replacing the capping station on a DTG Viper. Thank you very much.